Right, hello. Let's just check that the caption is working. So closed captions, are they being displayed? I'm not seeing them yet. Oh yeah, cool. So, some more Svelte kit today, or Svelte at the moment, I suppose. On Sunday, we went through the first part of the Svelte tutorial here, which is going over basic Svelte, introducing you to some of the ideas in the framework. I was having some issues with the REPL here, with this like live view version of the code getting stuck in an update loop. So I've just disabled all my extensions in this browser, and hopefully that's resolved it, and we'll see how that goes. But I have also still got the setup of the Svelte tutorial just like as a separate project setup, so that I can swap over to it and test things out in case I need to. And all I've done so far with this is just copied over a few basic ideas from some of the pages. So for example, the reactivity part of the tutorial, if we go back to that on reactivity and have a look at assignments, for example, this is showing like a button that increments each time you click it, and I think we added the doubled functionality, and then we looked at having alerts that come up when you get to a certain value. So when we get to 10, you get the alert. And then we looked at adding numbers into an array and how you do that nice and easily. So all I've done is combined those into two separate Svelte components. So this is the arrays one that we've just seen on the updating array tutorial. And then I've combined all the stuff that we tried, put them into one of the pages, and then for each section I've added just a little simple navbar. I'm trying to avoid using CSS in this project at the moment, just because I want to keep it as simple as possible with showing off what Svelte is doing rather than what CSS is doing. So in our basic Svelte in reactivity, we've got this doubled functionality and the clicker, and we've got the array combiner all here. So as we go through stuff, I'm going to try and add some info into each of these, and I have started doing some of them, but I'll work my way through some of these when I get a bit bored with going through the tutorial, I think, because I want to do some of this on stream. Most of it's pretty much just copying what was done on the tutorial though, so there's nothing really new here. And then I want to make a lookup page that's going to be like looking up certain functionalities. So like, let's say in this list we're going to have like if statements or conditionals or something like that, and rather than having to go through to basic Svelte and then look at logic and then finding the right bit of the conditionality based on what it's called in this Svelte course, I want this lookup page just to be a quick reference guide. Okay, what am I looking for? I'm looking for like images, and then if I click on that, it will give me a list of places where we had a look at images. So that's the don't know why we just had a little refresh there. So that's the basic idea of what this project is, and we set this up in the last stream on Sunday. So the terminal commands that you need to get the page up and running and all that kind of stuff. I think I went over in that session, so hopefully that gets everyone up to date. I think I'm clicked on something there. No, it's all good. So I do bits of web development and web design for like my normal day job, and I've been using Svelte and Sveltekit. But it's been a little while since I've gone through the tutorial, and I thought it's a good idea to revisit all of this and have a look at all of it. So just to see if there's anything new, anything I've missed, anything that's changed, all that kind of stuff. So Sveltekit in particular works as a full front and back end framework, I guess. But yeah, a lot of it runs, well, a lot of the commands that we run are Node. A lot of people aren't a fan of JavaScript yet. But if you look at, for example, let's have a look at, have we got anything useful here? So just some simple. Yeah, JavaScript around the DOM is a bit more annoying. So this is why I'm currently looking into Svelte and Sveltekit a lot more. So rather than having to do, like in the JavaScript, you wouldn't have to do, how do you normally do it? You like document dot get element by, by tag name or something like that, or by ID, all that kind of stuff. With Svelte, we don't have to do that. So I can just create this component. And for example, I want to have our header on the page, this h1 tag, say hello, and then have a variable here that we can update. So if I show you what this looks like on the actual page, if we go to the bindings, I think. Yeah. So we put that to the side here. What we've got here, this is all in our layout. So all this stuff at the top isn't shown in our, will I use a FreeAm work for style? When I've been looking at the styling side of things, I'm leaning more towards Pico CSS, or it'll be maybe Tailwind. But for this particular project as a tutorial, I'd kind of just want to leave it with no styling at all, because I think it basically, when you've got all the CSS and the styling in with your code, it can make it look more confusing than it needs to be. And really the whole point of this tutorial is to look at, okay, how do I do the functionality in Svelte? I might have a section here which is about CSS and style stuff, and then in those particular examples have whatever crazy styles I want to do. But I think mostly I'm going to go with as much vanilla CSS or probably Sass as I can. And we'll see how that goes. No, yeah. So that is, yeah. So what I was saying is this Svelte component. So this page that we're on here is part 6 bindings. So we go to part 1 and we're in 6 bindings, and that's the page file here, which is what we're seeing here. And on this page, we've got our hello world h1 tag. So at the moment, when the page is initialized, we have our variable name that we set to the value of world. So that's why we've got hello world on the page. And then we've got an input field with the value of name, which is the value that has been assigned to this string. But it's also this bind directive that we've got in Svelte allows us to tie this back into writing to the name. And then also to show, we've got a button here that has a click event, this on click here, which calls this handle click function, which just sets the name variable to the string override instead. So if we click this, we get to override the string name and it updates it in both places, but we can also just type directly into here and immediately see the updates. So this is all you need to do in Svelte to have that kind of bind functionality, which I think in React and Angular and stuff like that, you have to have a lot more, there's a lot more boilerplate to do the same kind of stuff. So Svelte tries to like magic that away a little bit. Hard to understand Node.js directory. As in this bit here that we've got on the side. Because once you've had a little look at Svelte, it's not too difficult to navigate around this bit. So in our src here, this is our source files. We can have library files here, which is just by standard. And then in our roots, this tells us what root we're looking at. No worries. Hey Runa, how's it going? Or is it Hitreg Lemon? How's it going? Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, see ya, Ankit. How indeed. It's not that, it hasn't been that long. But yeah, I've moved, well, I haven't been streaming that much. I don't know what it is, but over the summer, I tend to just like drop off of streaming. But I'm going to try and get back into it a little bit more, doing some web development more than gameplay. And then with the idea to move more and more into game development, I've just got a couple of web projects that I have to finish off. So while I'm doing that, I'm going to do some web dev streams. And then once those projects are out of the way, I think I want to full focus on the game dev side of things. So yeah, should be good. What have you been up to? I think I've been lurking a bit in some of your Sea of Thieves streams a couple of months ago. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the only reason I know that you changed your name. Just join my Discord. To be honest, I've kind of forgotten that I've got it running. I don't know if there's much on there. I think it's meant to update. Let's see. I think it has the notifications for when I go live. But other than that, there's not much to it. If Discord loads. Come on. Let me just put this down here just in case. But yeah, how's Sea of Thieves going? Are they adding? I'm sure they're adding a new update sometime soon. Hee. I can't wait to say hi. Monkey Island, that was it. Yes, I was like, I'm sure I've seen something about it. Yeah, what have we got? We've actually got nothing in the Discord. I think I set up some channels ready for ideas going forward, but yeah, when I get back into the streaming a bit more, then I'll fill out a little bit more. Make a video upon your own web. Duration of the video is 11 minutes. Describe your web, how you made it. Challenge and more. I mean, I'm going to be working through the tutorials for the moment. I've got plenty of things to look at here. But yeah, I've got a few ideas for what to do for the web dev streams coming up. I want to make a template site as well, and some template components that I can use in the rest of my other projects. So that'll be the idea to go going forward. But today we're going to look at the next section of the tutorial. I don't think that's the case. But yeah, so we worked our way through the basic Svelte sessions last week on Sunday. So watching Coconut DVD, saw my name in the chat. Really? when that's gotta be ages. Like, I haven't been in Coconut's chat for like months. That's gotta be an old video, right? I assume you mean Coconut RTS, yeah? Oh, he beat a cheater. Someone was hacking in his game. Oh, brilliant. What was it? So... Oh, what did I say? Go on. Oh, I was in the lobby. Was I one of the other survivors? Wait, where? Okay. Now you got me intrigued here. RTS. Was it a recent video or? It's going to be impossible to find this, isn't it? Or was it this new video? Like you said, same lobby. Oh. But not one of these videos then. I'll have to have a look. Right. Right. Okay. Let's start having a look at some of this tutorial then. So, Svelte is a framework for JavaScript development, and we went through the basic Svelte tutorials on Sunday. So now we're jumping into motion with the tweens. Oh, you found the video? I don't know if I've still got links blocked. I think maybe in Twitch it's not blocked, so you might be able to post it. If not, then you should be able to dump it somewhere in Discord. Ah, thank you. Oh, ads. I've had to turn off all the extensions. At the start. Oh, the start of the video. Yeah. Good spot. Wow. Does he load into the same lobby again? God, where was this? 10 months ago. Okay, that makes sense. Hey, I'm probably in Grand Puber's chat more. He's slightly bigger, I guess. But let's see if I can find it. God, completely distracted with this. If we look for Ironmon. Can we find direct videos? Can I see... I can't do this. I can't sort this by most recent. Yeah, I know, but it's fine. Oh, actually, I might have a command for it. Yeah, there we go. So, copy link. This is a sprite that I ended up making for the Grand Puber when he was doing his Ironmon challenge. So this pixel art thing, he had this thing with Wolverine that he thinks it looks like this football coach in America called Andy Reid. And one of the mods reached out to me when I started posting my pixel art, and they're like, "Oh, can you make a sprite for us that merges Wolverine into Andy Reid?" So Andy Reid being this American football coach. So where was it? We've got it was an image here that I took, and I was like, okay, I'm going to convert that. But yeah, made the made the Wolverine stripe. But yeah, like you said, getting a bit distracted. This it's alright. I'll put timestamps in the YouTube video comments, so if people want to go straight to the Sveltekit stuff, they can jump straight to it. No, not yet. That's only a couple of small things. I'll be famous when I've got a successful game out, I reckon. That's where I'll judge it. I think that's my my best bet going forward. But yeah, fame's a dangerous thing. I'm not sure I even want it. Okay, so we were looking at the basic Sveltekit. This is starting to move into advanced territory, and we're looking at motion and transitions that you use on the websites. So, time to learn some advanced Svelte techniques, starting with motion. Setting values and watching the DOM update automatically is cool. Now, what's even cooler? Tweening those values. So, Svelte includes tools to help you build slick user interfaces that use animation to communicate changes. So, at the moment, when we click the button to show the progress on this bar, it just goes straight to the value. So all we've got here is our progress value that's being written to a store. The progress bar that calls that value out of the store with this $sign parameter. And then these buttons are just, when you click them, they set the value to a certain percentage. So this is setting the progress variable in the store to 0, to 0.25, to 0.5, 0.75, and to 1. And that's all that's doing. So if we now... Oh, thanks for the lurk. So now if we import our tweened... this is all just web development stuff. But thank you all, thanks for the luck. So if we import this from the Svelte Motion store, Svelte Motion library, which comes packaged with Svelte, and then we're overwriting the writable. Oh, we're not even using the store. Right, okay. Well, that's always a start. Scratch is it's still programming based, isn't it? It's drag and drop, but actually no, you can. I think you can do coding in it as well. But when you start understanding the concepts, the only difference is that you're using an interface to do it rather than typing it yourself. There's not a big jump between them. You'll be programming this kind of stuff in no time. So we're saying instead of using the writable, we're just going to use tweened directly here. So we're not using the store as a tool anymore. So we're setting a value here. And that's all we need to do. So how come we can do... Yeah, I mean, it's getting to that point. We're not quite there yet, because what comes out isn't actually like too well written, but the process of like the speed of improvement is pretty much there. Like in 2 or 3 months' time, it's just going to be ridiculous. Assuming they keep on developing at the same pace they are at the moment. But yeah, see, what I don't get is tweened still a store? Goes into a bit detailed explanation there, but for the moment I think we can establish that it operates like a store, so we can still use set. We can use the set method on progress, and we can read it dynamically with the $sign syntax here. But just by using tweened, we're now going from what was the robotic, like flat jump up to 25%. It's now got a bit more like an animated change. But it's a bit robotic and unsatisfying though, so we need to add an easing function. So again, we can import our cubic out. From Svelte / easing. And then instead of using just tweened 0, we can pass in some extra parameters here, such as the duration of the animation. So 0.4 of a second, 400 milliseconds, and give it an easing function. So this is basically the curve of the animation. So now when we click it, cubic out should be a cubic function. It's like a very steep, fastly accelerating steep graph, isn't it? So it should, I think it should go fast to the end, but then slow down, right? So yeah, it's a much nicer display. And what we can do is just say here, look, if we just show let's do const. Actually, let's just do progress 2. No, let's go initial. We'll call this equals. What did we have before? We had import writable. Helps if I can type here. Writable from Svelte/store. And then it was like writable 0, wasn't it? It's not writable. Writable? Yeah. And we're going to call this one initial. Oh, I keep on doing that. Don't need to click save in here. Right, and then what we want to do is let's put in a function here, which is going to be called set values. And we're going to take in a value, and we're going to call progress.set value and initial dot set value, and then on our click event we're going to call set values like this instead, right? So now can we do that with all of these? This might not be working, but we'll figure out as we go. No, not quite. What are we doing wrong here then? What if we pass it in like this? Yeah, okay. So I think what we're doing here is because of the way that we set it up here, we need to set it up as our arrow functions. Right now they should work. But they're only doing the progress bar. Why are they not doing the initial bar? Right, let's copy all of this. I'm going to solve it and reset it. Progress writable. Writable 0. That is what we're doing, isn't it? So, why are we not liking this? Oh, I keep on clicking save. Don't need to do that. It's working for the tweened. A mistake there. Oh, I'm so used to saving after every change. Progress.setValue, initial.setValue. Let's just see it side by side. What was... Yeah, progress.set 0. This is progress. This is progress here. And instead, we're doing initial... Ah, that would be why. Spelt it wrong. There we go. Right, okay. So that's just the writable. This is going to be the eased. And then we need a in between, which is just the tweened. We got there in the end. We're going to do tweens.set value. And we need here we need const tweened equals tween 0. Ah, we can't call it tweened because that's the name of the function. So we're going to call this animated. No. Let's just call it gradual. So gradual. Okay. So what we should see is the top one is the one that's eased. The middle one is just the gradual change, and the bottom one is just the flat change. So we'll see the different styles here. So with the easing on it, and what we can do is we can bump this up a little bit to like 2 seconds. Is the like animation style. The bottom one just jumps directly to the value because there's no motion applied to it at all. It's this initial progress bar. Actually, we can probably put like a label here, right? If we do label, let's if I can type initial. Form label must be associated with a control. Let's just do it as a p tag then. Right, so this is our eased. This is our gradual. And the bottom is our initial. So you can see directly the changes. So the initial with no motion on it just jumps directly to the values. With our gradual change, it has a consistent motion. So the speed of it is consistent. And with the eased function, with the easing and duration properties, we have kind of like a curve to the animation. So you'll see it does a lot of it quick, but slows towards the end, which is where this cubic comes in. And there's a whole load of these ones in our easing library that we can have a look at. So the Svelte easing module contains the Penner easing equations, which gives us the whole list of these equations. Or you can supply it with your own p to t function, where p and t are both values between 0 and 1. Sure, that makes sense. So there are other options available to tweened. We have the delay in milliseconds before the tween starts. So we could do another one again. Call this delayed. And we're going to say delay.setValue as well. And then we need a delayed here. And to show the difference here, we're going to have just a delay on here of 2 seconds. So what we'll see is after 2 seconds, then we get the delayed motion happening. So that's nice and easy to see. Let's just do that to like half a second instead. That'll be enough to demonstrate. We have the duration, which we've already played around with. Either the duration of the tween in milliseconds or a from to milliseconds function, allowing you to specify longer tweens for larger changes in value. Ah, okay. Oh, so instead of just like a duration here, we could say from 50 milliseconds up to, let's say, no. We do from to arrow function from, wait, how do we do this? Let's say from is 50. So can we do like min? No. Oh, this is confusing me now. Let's do from plus. No, I need to see an example of this. I don't know how that's going to work. Let's just leave that at that for the moment. Okay, so easing is just a function or we can interpolate, which is a custom from to t to value function for interpolating between arbitrary values. By default, Svelte will interpolate between numbers, dates, and identically shaped arrays and objects, as long as they only contain numbers and dates or other valid arrays and objects. If you want to interpolate, for example, color strings or transformation matrices, supply a custom interpolator. This is going way over what should be, I think, in the tutorial. I think this should be like an edge cases part of the tutorial, being like, this is basically what you use the motion stuff for, and here's like what you could do. Some examples of like how crazy you can go. You can also pass these options to progress.set and progress.update as a second argument, in which case they will override the defaults. The set and update methods both return a promise that resolves when the tween completes. Okay, again, I need to see some examples of that. Well, that's good. Is there anything here showing the easing functions? Yeah, here we go. So basically what we're using at the moment is the cubic out, which is this one. So the x is the distance that we want to travel, and the t is the time. So we're showing here that the very last few bits of x to get to our destination takes the longest amount of time. So it's like a fast acceleration, and then it slows to the end. So if we wanted to make it look more interesting, we could do in-out elastic, for example. So if we copy, I think we just need in-out elastic, and replace our cubic out here. Okay, no, so it'll be elastic in-out, I think. And then we'll replace cubic out with easing elastic out and cubic out. Right, and now what we should see is when we move to, let's say 100%, both the eased and the delayed should, if we follow this this, what's it called, animation curve, it will start at the start point. It'll actually go back to like a minus on the range, and then it'll overshoot the 75% mark and then settle back at 75%, hopefully. So let's see. Oh, because we can't see below, we can't quite see it there, but you'll be able to see it on the way back as well, that it overshoots and then settles back down, and the initial overshoots and then comes back. So these are some of the different animation curves that we can use. I think we have bounce as well. Let's see if bounce is in it. Actually, I think we could just do like bounce. Let's do bounce out and see if it's available. Yep. So that's the bounce animation, and that's out. It's because it's bounce out, it only applies on the end of the transition. But if we do bounce in out, then we'll see it like bounce up to its motion, its desired speed, and then settle with a bounce as well. So if you see it bounce up, and then once it reaches the end, it bounces down into the final resting point. So those are some of our tweens. So before I move on, I'm just going to copy this into our own template that we're running along with. So we're now into part 2. So this is how we make a new route in Svelte. So at the moment, if we look at our site that's here, we've got our part 1 basic Svelte, and we've got the links to various examples that we did in the tutorial. But if I click on advanced Svelte, there's no route found. So this /part 2 doesn't exist yet. That's because we haven't set up the file for it. So if you see here in our routes, we've only got /part 1, /lookup, or /examples. And this is kind of how the routing works in Svelte, or in Sveltekit. Is if you have a folder inside the routes folder, that will then create, well, a folder that has a page Svelte file, which is these kind of files. It will create that route in our navigation. So to do our part 2 /tweening, or /tween, we're going to add a new page.svelte, and we're going to put the path as part 2. And within that part 2, we want to do tween. I think it's just tween, isn't it? Tweens with an S. So I have to do that again. So a new page file in /part 2 /tweens. And what this will do is it will automatically create the folder structure for me for part 2 /tweens. and this is the page file at that location. So now if we just refresh already, we should, I think. Wait, is it not saved? Oh, there is no page file for the part 2. So actually, if we do a plus page .svelte here, that's why it wasn't working. Now it went 404. Yeah. So now we just got an empty page here. And what we want to do is in our tweens page, we want to paste in our code that we've just done. So that's all there. It's complaining because I'm using TypeScript. So value, which is a number. No. Oh, and then we want to say the language is TypeScript here. There we go. Now it stopped complaining. Right, so at the moment we don't have the links to get to this route that we just made, but we've made the tweens page here. So if we go to that, we just pasted our code in here, and we should have the same functionality here as what we've just been playing around with. So these are our tweens, and what we'll want to do is a way to navigate to those pages is similar to what we've done in our part 1 here, is add a layout component. So in our part 2, we're going to add a layout file just to the root of our part 2 directory here. And what we're going to do is do links into, oh, it should be called one tweens. And then we haven't got anything else yet, so it should just be the one link. And we need to update our root here to match the style that we've been doing so far. So we're just going to call it one tweens. Right, so now when we go to our part 2, we have a link to tweens, and there it is. And the way these layout files work, and the way a lot of Svelte files work, is layout is applied to anything within this directory and lower. So this layout file tells Svelte to put this list of links that we've done here above the rest of the components that we load into this page. So for example, on this part 2 page, we have our standard page, which is empty, which let's just put an H1 in here that says like, hello, this is part 2. That page is inserted into this slot here when it's rendered. So we just go to our website /part 2. We should just see this page which says, hello, this is part 2, with the layout that's wrapped around it. And then also, because we've got a layout in our top level at the root here that has our links to all of the different parts, we'll see this list of links as well. So we see this list of links, which then has the slot filled in with our page here, which has this link, and then our slot, which is filled in by this element. So we're like nesting elements inside each other here. So now when we go back here, if we go to the tweens, if we go to part 2, we see our H2 here with the tweens link. But if we go to part 1, because that's in a different directory, we don't have the tweens link layout. It's a bit confusing, but I think we'll get to those kind of stuff when we get to this Sveltekit documents tutorial when we get down here. And that it should make a little bit more sense when we get to that, because hopefully their descriptions of how it all works will be a bit better than my slight rambling. Right, So I think we're gonna ignore most of this extra stuff for a minute, because I'm pretty sure that we get into that in a bit more detail in some of the later tutorials. But if not, then we'll come back and look at some examples and see how that goes. So springs. The spring function is an alternative to tweened that often works better for values that are frequently changing. In this example, we have two stores, one representing the circle's coordinates, this circle here, and one representing its size. Let's convert them to springs. So at the moment, these aren't linked up, so are they? Let's see, why is it complaining? It's complaining about accessibility details, so we don't have to worry too much of that at the moment. But Svelte does have this built-in accessibility checker as well, which is really handy. So it's basically saying we should have ARIA roles on these SVGs. So what we're saying here is this SVG, which is this circle that's being drawn. On mouse move, we're taking the event and we are setting the chords store. So this writable here, we're setting it to the X and Y values of the mouse position, which is that client X and client Y. Where on mouse down, so when we click, it's changing its size to 30, and on mouse up, when we let go, it changes it back to 10. So again, that's that size store that we're setting here. By default, when we first load the page, the circle that's drawn in has the X and Y coordinates of 50 and 50 and the size of 10. But when it sees, so on this mouse move, it picks up the coordinates of the mouse and moves the circle to those coordinates. So the other thing is we've got these controls here with the stiffness and the damping. Okay, so I think all of motion stuff are replacements for stores. So both springs have default stiffness and damping values, which control the spring's springiness. We can specify our own initial values in the setup. So yeah, with this label, this H3 here, is giving us the value back from this coords.stiffness, which is being bound to the input here, and it's a range type input with maximum of 1 and minimum of 0.01. And I think we've got the same here for the damping here. So at the moment, this shouldn't do anything because we're not using the spring function from the motion library. At the moment, we're just using a writable store. So these, if you see, the circle's like following us around, following the mouse around. And if we change these stiffness and damping values, it doesn't make a difference. But if we replace this store with motion, and we replace writable with spring, oh, it helps if I can type. And then instead of writable, we're doing spring here and here. So it's slightly different already. I don't think... Are these doing stuff already? Yeah, they are. Okay. Which is weird. Oh, no, they're just natural properties of the spring function, by the looks of it. So when we set these values, the stiffness of the spring basically is like how long it takes to return to its original shape or original like position. So when we've got it very stiff, it basically doesn't move at all. You imagine it like a spring, basically. What does the damping do then? Damping is like overshoot, I think. So this is following very closely and very quickly to the mouse. If we bring this down to like very low, it won't overshoot the mouse at all, but it will take a long time to reach up to it. And then I think if we do like, let's do 0.75 and we'll do a low damping, you can see that it basically constantly overshoots because it's trying to get back to the mouse position. We'll do a little bit higher damping. And let's do a little bit slower, lower stiffness. So we can see that the circle's like following around now fairly slowly to get to, well, it should be slow to get to me because of the stiffness, but the damping allows it to overshoot. Which is quite interesting. We can adjust the values while the spring is still in motion. So let's do like low and low. So we'll just send it off flying somewhere. And then, because it can't settle on where I am, we can actually adjust it in time. And we can increase the damping and it comes back to us. Nice. Cool. So I don't think we really changed anything there, so there's nothing really to copy across just yet. So let's move on to transitions. We can make the DOM more appealing. We can make more appealing user interfaces by gracefully transitioning elements into and out of the DOM. Svelte makes this very easy with transition directive. First, import the fade function from Svelte/transition. Okay, so at the moment we've got a checkbox that, when it's checked, we show this p tag, and when it's not checked, it disappears. So that's just using the logic that we did on Sunday. So these if blocks in Svelte look at the value of the visible boolean here, and if it's true, it shows it. It shows the content inside of it. And if it's false, it doesn't show it. Nice and simple. But if we now import fade from Svelte/transition, helps if I say that I'm just importing the fade function rather than the whole library. So this is destructuring our transition library and saying we just want the fade function out of it. The way I had it before, this is saying bring the whole library across and call it fade, which it doesn't like. I wonder if you can do default. Unexpected token. No. Okay, anyway. Feed. So now, on our p tag here, we want to add a transition tag. Transition with the fade function. And now we'll see that Svelte magically, that's all we've had to do is just import the fade transition and apply the parameter to our HTML element, and when it's shown or hidden, it now fades in or out rather than just appears or disappears. We've not really done loads there, so let's have a look at the next bit. Oh, there's a lot in transitions. Transition functions can accept parameters. So rather than fade, we're going to try fly instead. So that's a different function in the transition library. And fly takes in some parameters here. So we've got to set them up. So we're going to give it a Y value of 200 and a duration of 2 seconds, so 2000 milliseconds. And now, note that transition is reversible. If you toggle the checkbox while the transition is ongoing, it transitions from the current point rather than the beginning or end. Okay. So now what we should see is it should fly in. Which way is Y? Y200 is down, I think. So you can see it fades in and out with the transition, but because we're using the fly function rather than fade, we can tell it which direction to go. So what we could probably do here is also add an X coordinate. Let's do X at like 2000. And now it should go massively across and slowly go down. Goes off to X 2000, all the way off. So let's just do it as a square instead. And as you check it, it appears and disappears. Cool. Right, next, in and out. Instead of the transition directive, an element can have an in or an out directive, or both. So import fade alongside fly. We're going to import both of them now. Fade and fly. And now instead of a transition element, we're going to say on the transition in, which is when the element appears, it's going to fly in. Flies in, fades out. Oh, fades out. So then we're going to add the out parameter or out directive on this tag, and we're going to give it the fade function. Right, so when it disappears, when we check this off, it will fade away. But when it reappears, it should fly in from Y200. So it should fly in from the bottom. But then we can click it away whenever, and it will fade out before it even gets here. So I imagine there's some very interesting animations you can do here. In this case, the transitions are not reversed. So because we're doing a fade out, basically that's saying when we hide the element, rather than it flying back down to where it flew in from, it just does the fade out command. It doesn't reverse the transition here. Okay, up next, custom CSS transitions. Svelte transition module has a handful of built-in transitions, but it's very easy to create your own. By way of example, this is the source of the fade transition. Okay. So our fade function has a node with optional parameters of delay and duration. And what it does is sets the opacity. I don't know what the plus does there. Based on a function over time. Function takes two arguments: the node to which the transition is applied, so our p tag in the previous example, and any parameters that were passed in, which are this list of parameters, and returns a transition object, which can have the following properties: a delay, a duration, an easing, which we had a little bit, a CSS property, a TU to CSS function where U is equal to 1 minus t. Huh? And tick. Function has some effect on the node. Again, I think this is where the tutorial is going too in depth for what we're learning at the moment. This is interesting stuff for the deeper dive, and we will power through it, but we'll come back to this when we've got a bit better setup. T value is 0 at the beginning of the intro or end. Sorry, at the beginning of an intro or at the end of an outro, and 1 at the end of an intro or beginning of an outro. Most of the time, you should return the CSS property and not the tick property, as CSS animations run off the main thread to prevent jank where possible. Svelte simulates the transition and constructs the CSS animation, then lets it run. For example, the fade transition generates a CSS animation somewhat like this, where as the value of t goes from 0 to 1, the opacity changes like this. Okay. We can get a lot more creative though. Let's make something truly gratuitous. So I think at the moment it just fades in and out, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to add in some easing functions. So an import of elastic out from Svelte/easing. Oh, we can't spell today. And then part of our spin function here, we're going to output our CSS animation function, this T arrow function, right? Okay, and then they've got some crazy function here. So in here, we're going to we can keep those brackets around that, that's fine. So we take in a parameter of t time, and we have a variable called eased, which is elastic out of t. So we're applying the easing from Svelte easing. Helps if I got this in quotes. So we're taking the elastic out function from here. We're passing in the parameter t, and that is giving us our eased value. And then from this arrow function, we're going to return this mess, which is the properties that are going to go back to the element that's being worked on. So here we're going to go transform, scale. Let's see if we can establish what this is. So eased, rotate. We've got to guess what this is going to do before it does it. Eased times 1080. Okay. Degrees. Oh. And then also color. HSL, which is hue, saturation, and lightness, I think. It's just another way of referring to a color rather than like RGB or hex or stuff like that. It's a similar kind of thing. So the hue we're going to set to math.trunk of t times 360, right? And the saturation, I'm going to do similar, but this is math.min 100,000 times 1 minus t. Oh. and that's a percentage figure. And then let's just copy that because that's going to be roughly the same for the next line. Math.min 50 up to 500 of the same. Okay, so what have I missed? Svelte. Oh, T and L is the wrong way around. Svelte/easy. Right. So when we, so it's going to fade out when we click this. That's still going to be the same because our out animation is still a fade, right? But when we click in, so when we check this box again, well, we can see it. This should just fade out. Yeah. Okay, but when we click it in, we're going to run the spin animation with an 8-second duration, right? And that means over 8 seconds, this value is going to follow the elastic out wave, which is out elastic, where ease out elastic. Okay, so like this. So we're going to overshoot and then settle down to the final value. So it's going to go quickly to the final value and then like wobble around a little bit. And what's it going to do during that transformation? It is going to scale based on the size. So it's going to start small and it's going to very quickly get to the full size and oversize before it wobbles back down. It's going to rotate from 0 to 1 times 180 degrees. So that is 367, 20, 180. So 3 full spins, right? And because it's also doing it on elastic out, it's going to overspin 3 spins and spin back a little bit. And then the color is going to go from hue of 0 to hue of 360. This isn't affected by the ease out function because it's just looking directly at the time. And so that's the hue. The saturation is going to start at 100. Wait, 1 minus T. T starts at 0. So this is going to start at 1000. This is going to start at 100. So the minimum of those two is going to be 100. So it's going to start at 100 saturation. And then as T gets closer to 1, this gets closer to 0. So it will bring it down towards 0, right? It'll bring it down to 0. So when it's 90% through its animation, that's when we'll start seeing the saturation change, I think. And I think the same with the L, which I think is lightness, but I'm not entirely sure with that. So basically it's going to be changing colors the whole time, but the saturation is going to diminish towards the very end, down to 0. And the brightness, I'm guessing, what's the HSL? Let's have a look. HSL color. Hue is degree on the color wheel. Saturation is the intensity of the color. And L, what's the L? Sure. Lightness, what's the lightness? How much light you want to give a color. 0 is dark, 50% light. Okay. So it's going to start at 50 and it's going to come down to 0. Let's see how accurate we are with our guess. Almost. Why is the hue not changing at all though? We got something wrong in the setup, right? Of the color. We got the spin right. Is it 3 spins? 1? Oh, I can't see that. That's going too quickly. Let's see if we just do 360 degrees instead. It should just be 1 spin. It overspins, but then settles back down, which, yeah, that's correct. So, what have we got wrong with color? Does it matter about spacings at all? No, the white space shouldn't matter. We haven't closed this, maybe. That could be it, but I'm not entirely sure. Let's make it look exactly the same as what we've got in the example here. That's fine, that's fine. Closed and that, yep. And then we're... So open, that's fine. Maybe it was just this semicolon missing. No. So why is the color not working? Return CSS. Because we've got... It shouldn't be because we've got brackets around that. No, okay. So eased. Elastic out, that. Our scale is working. Our rotate is working. That's fine. Color HSL, open brackets. It's not recognizing this for some reason, is it? What if we get rid of this? Oh, didn't mean that. It could have been that trailing comma. Yeah, okay. It's because I had a comma after this percentage here for the lightness level. Right, so now we should be matched exactly. So, yeah. We can see the hue changes as it spins around. And it's going to eventually settle on... what would this be? 360? Oh, because it's on a color wheel though. It's 360 all the way around. We set this all the way to 360. So we're ending up at red, but with these as both 0, which is why we're getting black. Right. So what if we did max instead of min on these? Let's just play around a little bit with this. So now we should get something different, right? Okay, so we end on white. Because T goes back to 0, doesn't it? Okay. But yeah, interesting. Okay. So basically over the 8 seconds duration, as T goes from 0 to 1, we go all the way up through this 360. So we should see red, then yellow, then green, then this teal, blue, pink, purple, back to red, which I think is what we did see. Yeah, yellow to green to teal to blue to pink to red. Nice. Okay. So next, custom JS transitions. Okay, we're getting very serious onto the deep end of some of this stuff. While you should generally use CSS for transitions as much as possible, there are some effects that can't be achieved without JavaScript, such as a typewriter effect. So, at the moment, let's see what we can figure out. If visible transformation typewriter, we're telling it to use this typewriter function that takes a node, which was the transition directive tells it to do. We can set a speed on it. Right. And invalid. So it's a valid input if our input node, such as this p tag, has more than one, no, it has one length. So there's only one element within the p tag, that's correct. And the elements within the child knows 0. Our node.text node, okay. So basically saying there's text within the element. If it's invalid, transition only works with elements with a single text node child. Okay. So at the moment it won't do anything because there's nothing in the return. So like it's showing here, what we need to do is we need to set up a couple of variables. So const text equals node dot text content. So this is saying when we run this function, look at the node element, which is this p tag. Look at the text content of that p tag, so this sentence, and we're setting this text variable to this value. And then we want a duration equals text.length. So based on the length of the string inside the p tag, divided by speed times 0.01. So our duration, the longer our text is, the faster we need to type out the letters to match the duration. No, sorry, the longer the duration is, right? So let's say we set the speed to 100. This would set the speed to 1. So our duration would be the length of the text. If we set the speed to 10, our duration would be 0.1. So our duration would then be 10 times the length of the text. So the speed is determining how many letters, like how quickly the letters are typed. The duration is just a byproduct of that. Okay, and then we want to return from our function here a duration, which is being calculated based on the length of the text that we just had a look at. And then this tick function, or tick property, I guess, which takes in the value t, which is the percentage of the duration completed. And we're setting up by math.trunc text.length times t. Okay. Node.text content equals text.slice 0i. Okay, so what I believe is happening here is as this value t goes from 0 to 1 over the duration of our typewriter effect, we are setting the text content in our node, in this p tag, to equal the text sliced from the start up to this figure. So as t approaches 1, this approaches the end of this approaches text length, and the trunk just gets rid of any decimal places. So we get one letter at a time being added on. And that's it. So that's where we get this kind of effect. And all it's doing is saying this content is the text of the node over time sliced. So we've saved it already at the start of the transition, and we're applying it as it types. Oh, and it's reversible because it is our transition. Right, okay. But if we just had this as an in, it doesn't like that. Can we do... Fade is not defined, so if we import fade from Svelte / transitions. Right, so now you should type in and then fade away. So it's not reversing anymore because we've only got it on the in directive. But if we have it on the transition, it doesn't like it because we can't have transition and out. It's fine, and it is reversible now. It's like it's backspacing. Cool, okay. Interesting. Right, next, transition events. It can be useful to know when transitions are beginning and ending. Svelte dispatches events so that you can listen. Svelte dispatches events that you can listen to like any other DOM event. Right, so our status is waiting. So if our tag is visible, then it flies in and out, right? So at the moment that's pretty standard. But what we're doing extra here is part of our HTML. We can create these events that trigger when the animation intro starts. And when we're doing it, we're just setting this status value just to show that, like console logging it. So status equals intro started. So at the moment, its status is waiting. If we disable this, we will be doing the outro part of the animation. So nothing will happen at the moment because I haven't got these extra lines in. I've only got the intro start. So nothing happens with our waiting. But as soon as I click this, this will say intro started immediately. And then if we add in the other events to listen into. So let's call this outro start. Sorry, intro end. And outro end. Oh, what have I done here? Right, so this is outro started. This is intro ended. And this is outro ended. So now, as soon as I click this, it will say outro started. As soon as the P tag flies out and fades away, like at the end of the animation, it will say outro ended. If I click it, it will say intro started. And then as soon as, well, when it returns to this position, it will say intro ended. So outro started, outro ended, intro started, intro ended. Now, if I interrupt it midway, I don't think we get the outro end event firing. So as long as I interrupt it before it gets to the end of the animations, we'll never get an ended here. But if we did like a much shorter duration, then we'll probably get the ended as well, because it's beating me to clicking it. Cool, okay. Up next, global transitions. So ordinarily, transitions will only play on elements when their direct containing block is added or destroyed. In the example here, toggling the visibility of the entire list does not apply transitions to individual list elements, okay? Instead, we'd like transitions to not only play when the individual items are added and removed with the slider, but also when we toggle the checkbox. We can achieve this with the global transition, which plays when any block containing the transition is added or removed. Okay, so they've already updated this for Svelte 4. Is Svelte 4? I don't know if Svelte 4 is out yet, is it? Yeah, it's not quite out yet, but it's very soon. 99% complete. So it looks like they've already updated the documentation for this. But as the note suggests here, because we're still using Svelte 3, we still have to use the local modifier for this effect. So what we're looking at here, I'm assuming this is running Svelte 4 then, in this REPL. So without the global transition, so when we show items, there is a transition slide on each item. But because we're showing and hiding the whole list, the transition animation isn't occurring. But if we add the global tag here, then what it's going to say is, ignoring entirely the location of this item, when it's drawn onto the screen, obey this transition animation. So when we hide this list, these will collapse up rather than just disappearing. And when we show it, they now collapse down. Which is really cool, because this makes things like a hamburger menu super easy to do, and nav bar, any drop down menus, that kind of stuff. Very nice. But it's not always the animation you want to do. Cool, okay. Key blocks, where are we? Last 2 bits of transitions, and then I'm going to do a break. Right, key blocks destroy and recreate their contents when the value of an expression changes. This is useful if you want an element to play its transition whenever a value changes, instead of only when the element enters or leaves the DOM. Key blocks destroy and recreate their contents when the value of an expression changes. This is useful if you want an element to play its transition whenever a value changes, instead of anyone. Okay, right, that's fair. So for example, we'd like to play the typewriter transition from transition.js, which is what we did earlier. That's just the code copied across by the looks of it. Whenever the loading message, i.e. I, changes. So our message is I here, which with our interval here, every 2.5 seconds so every 2.5 seconds we are looping through our loaded messages, right? So we're going to step through these every 2.5 seconds. So the p tag here isn't actually being drawn in, like, so it's not being created or destroyed, but we're saying we want this typewriter to affect anytime the content within the tag changes instead. So for that, they've created this key block that we're gonna base on the change in I, right? And this will only work because we're using I within the P block, I think. So end key. So now, whenever I changes, we're calling the typewriter effect, and it's running that. But if this was like J, that wouldn't work, right? Yeah. So it is specifically looking for the I in here. Let's just double check. If we say J equals -1 here. So it's not complaining now because it exists. But because J is not changing in this value here, we're getting so if we did like J equals I here, so why isn't this updating it? Oh, wait, because it's looking for changes in the DOM here. So if we output J here, it's not going to matter. But if here in our interval changes, we do J equals I, now it should. No? So I would close it out properly. No? So why is that not working? Right, so it's initialized as an empty string. And then messages, so after 2.5 seconds, I becomes equal to 0 because it starts at -1. So message here comes the first message in our loading messages section. Oh, wait, transition has to be transition. Yeah, that's our error. I bet if we look in the terminal or in the console. Maybe the console. We should see. Let's reload it. Yeah, this error is being thrown because we've got multiple child elements on in our p tag. Right, so that would work if we do here J instead. So there's only one child text element plus J. There we go. Okay, all fine. put it at the start actually. Nice, okay. I'm glad we resolved that. It was basically our fault for trying to put another child node in, that's why. Deferred transitions. I think this is the last of the transition. A particularly powerful feature of Svelte's transition engine is the ability to defer transitions so that they can be coordinated between multiple elements. Okay. Take this pair of to-do lists in which toggling a to-do sends it to the opposite list. Right? So when we check one, it jumps across to the other list. Okay. In the real world, objects don't behave like that. Instead of disappearing and reappearing in another place, they move through a series of intermediate positions. Using motion can go a long way towards helping users understand what's happening in your app. We can achieve this effect using the crossfade function as seen in transition.js. Okay. Which creates a pair of transitions called send and receive. When an element is sent, it looks for a corresponding element being received and generates a transition that transforms the element to its counterpart's position and fades out. Okay. When an element is received, the reverse happens. If there is no counterpart, the fallback transition is used instead. Open to-do list.svelte. First, import and send and receive transitions from transition.js. Okay, so these send and receive transitions we have to import here. So we're going to say import send and receive from /transition.js. Okay, so we now have those send and receive functions. Then add them to the li element using the to-do ID property as a key to match the elements. Right. So here, so for each li, when it's animating in, so when it's being drawn into the page, we're receiving this crossfade information from to-do.id. ID. And when we destroy the element, we send information with the key do ID. No space in between. Right, okay. Again, they do love doing these like big steps in between. It's just to demonstrate the functionality, but feels like there's a lot happening there. Okay, so now rather than appearing, disappearing, they migrate across between the different lists. Nice. Oh, I think we got to the end of that playlist. Let's do some game chops. Okay, so this is just the SVG for this little trash icon. Like, can we delete the file? No, we can't. We can delete that though. No, it doesn't matter. Right, so in our app.svelte, we have our to-do list. This is our list of to-dos. and the initial states. And if the to-do list, okay. So on our input here, we're looking for the enter key down event. So when someone submits it, and then when that happens, we're adding the value of our input to the to-do list. And then we're clearing the input field there. So how does it know that done is false though? In our to-dos, dot add, yeah, here we go. So when we add, we take a description, which is the text that was in the string, and then we're saying we're adding a new ID, setting done as false, and we're setting the description as the description that's passed in. And then we call the update function on our to-do store to spread the to-dos store array and add on our new to-do onto the end of the list with the new unique ID. Right, so UID equals 1, starts at 1. That's our initial setup. This is how it's initially mapped to our to-do list. Create this as a writable store. We're then adding this add functionality, remove functionality, and mark. Okay, it's a little bit of a complicated example in terms of the code, but again, it's just demonstrating the functionality. Right, up next, animations. Oh, there's only one. There's only one lesson here, so we're going to do that one before our break. I think there's loads in actions, isn't there? Okay, in the previous chapter, we used deferred transitions to create the illusion of motion as elements move from one to-do list to the other. To complete the illusion, we also need to apply motion to the elements that aren't transitioning. Wait. We use deferred transitions to create the illusion of motion as elements move from one to-do list to the other, right? That's what we've got. Right, okay. So when we click on this buy some milk, what we've done is we've done the transition that moves it from this done list across the to-do list, right? So that animation is as expected. But what we're also avoiding is that these two other items on the list then need to be moved up because there's a gap here at the top. So at the moment when we do it, they just jump up, right? So whichever ones we do, anything past the one we click on just jumps up. So we instead are adding this first last invert play function from Svelte Animate. Okay, so import flip first last invert play from Svelte/animate. Then add it to the li elements. So here, in out animate, flip, and that's it. Movement is a little bit slow. Okay, so now when we click on this will move across directly, and then these should shuffle up. Right, but yeah, duration's a bit long, so we can add in the duration property and set that a bit shorter. So now they move up nice and snappy. Oh, these transitions and animations are applied with CSS rather than JavaScript. So really, if we look in here, there's going to be some mental animations going on here. Transition filter. Is it here? I think it's this stuff. But when we click on it, yeah, it's going to be some of these elements here. But I think there's going to be some other... Yeah, there's going to be some other properties hidden in that. Okay, up next, actions. Right. Let's just see how many other... There's a lot of stuff down here, isn't there? Do we do actions as well? How long are we going? 2 hours. Yeah, we're going to do a quick little break here. And when we come back, we're going to have a look at actions. So, let's do screen break. No, that's not screen break. Although actually, let's just update that. Screen break. Okay. Let's put that somewhere in the middle. Where's our font size? This can come down. This one's going up. That'll do. Be right back. Let's put that on. Let's put you down a little bit. And then add our countdown timer. Right, back in a few minutes. Just taking a little screen break. Okay, we're back. Right, let's get rid of this stuff on the screen. That and that. Oh no, wait. Those ones, there we go. Right, actions. So actions are essentially element level lifecycle functions. They're useful for things like interacting with third-party libraries, lazy loading images, tooltips, adding custom event handlers, for example. In this app, you can scribble on the canvas and change colors and brush size via the menu. But if you open the menu and cycle through the options with the tab key, you'll soon find the focus isn't trapped inside the modal. We can fix that with an action, trap focus. Okay, wait. So at the moment, we've got kind of like a little canvas here. We can click the menu. We can tab. Okay, so we want to be able to like lock the tab just in there, rather than going around to the other options here. But we could do these and select, and then we've got our own purple and stuff like that. Okay. So we want to import trap focus from /actions. Right, let's have a look at actions. So trap focus takes an element and ray from. So it finds all of the elements that can have focus within the HTML element we apply it to, and returns this focusable array. So, and then it does a handle key down on our events. If the key is not tabbed, it doesn't matter. But if it is tab, we set the current element to the current active element in the page. We look through our list of focusable elements from that active element. Well, this is getting confusing already. We have a first and last. Event.shift key and current. Okay, so if we're tabbing with the shift key, so we're going backwards through the tab order, we want to cycle back round from the first element to the last element. So if we're currently focusing on the first element, let's say this red circle here, if we hold shift and tab, we want to transfer the focus across to the last element in the array of focusable elements, which should be either the black circle here or the rangefinder here for the size of the brush. So that's that. And prevent default, so stop the rest of the tab happening. Otherwise, if we're not holding the shift key and we're on the last element, then we've got to cycle back round to the first one. Whatever this means. Where's this? So we're looking if there is an element in the array on the return of focusable. If it exists, then we focus on it. This occurs when we call trap focus the first time. So that just sets our focus onto the first node to trap it. Okay. Right, so that's what's written so far in there. So we're going to be adding to that. Okay, this is just still the canvas stuff. So what we need to do is in our menu div with click key down must have an arrow URL. No, okay. So class menu here. we want to trap the focus. So use trap focus. So this is telling Svelte that when this menu is shown and interacted with, we have to use the trap focus function on that element. Oh god, this is getting a little bit confusing. I mean, it makes sense, but again, it's not simplest ways of showing what this is doing, I think. Oh, so when the node is mounted to the DOM, you can return an action object with a destroy method. First, we need to add an event listener that intercepts tab key presses. Right, okay. So node dot add event listener. It's going to autocomplete? No. So we're looking for the key down event while so any key down events on our HTML element, handle key down. So when that happens, we're calling this, which basically is what we went through. So it's looking for the tab and the shift keys. Second, we need to do some cleanup when the node is unmounted, removing the event listener and restoring focus to where it was before the event mounted. Okay, so that's why we store previous active element. So we need to return from this function a destroy method. Oh. So destroy. Oh. So this is going to node.remove event listener. And we're removing the event listener on the key down event, which uses this handle key down. God, we get there eventually. And then if there is a previous, which is what the question mark is indicating, it's not undefined, we're applying focus back to it. And then we're closing that, we're closing that. Okay, so this goes, we still need a close brace here. So now when you open the menu, you can cycle through the options with the tab key. So we've got our red color selected, and now we can tab, but it just cycles through the elements within this array. We can change our size to large here, and then can we select and exit? So now we should have a green that's slightly larger. Yep. Cool, okay. So yeah, there's a load more things going on in this tutorial. I think it would definitely benefit from like clearer, focused lessons showing like exactly what you're trying to show for this this particular part of the course. But I understand they're doing this as well as doing all the development and stuff like that, so it's fair enough. But yeah, that's useful. Okay, next, adding parameters to our actions. Like transitions and animations, an action can take an argument with the action function, which the action function will be called with alongside the element it belongs to. Okay, in this exercise, we want to add a tooltip to the button. using the tippy.js library. Okay. The action is already wired up with use tooltip, but if you hover over the button or focus it with the keyboard, the tooltip has no content. So you can see very, very slightly, there's a little box that's just appearing like just down here, where the might not show up too much on the stream, but there's a little box showing up there. First, the action needs to accept some options and pass them to Tippy. Okay, so function tooltip node, we're going to pass it in options, and when we're calling this Tippy function, it needs the options. Okay, then we need to pass some options into the action. So when we're using it, use tooltip, and this is just purely based on how this Tippy library works, that's all. So we're going to apply it some content, and theme is material. Okay, so then when we hover, we see, I'm assuming this content, which is this value here, so we can update this. This is the tooltip text. That doesn't update. Why doesn't that update? Content, hello. Bind value to content. Oh. The tooltip now works almost. If we change the text in the input, the tooltip will not, we can fix that. The tooltip will not reflect the new content. We can fix that by adding an update method to the returned object. Okay, so when we return, update, options, tooltip dot set props options. Comma. Right, okay. So, what's this really showing? So this use directive takes a function and you can return an update method on it. Kind of. I feel like you've got to really dig into the docs here now to properly understand what's going on here. But yeah, it's cool. Functionality. I assume Tippy is some random JavaScript library that we can get access to. Nice. Okay. I'll be honest, I can't really see a lot changing on these. That's like a fade out, and that's a fade in, isn't it? And then this fade in and out. Okay. Interesting library. Advanced bindings. Are we moving on to the next? Oh, we are. I think what I'll do advanced bindings. Do we do classes and styles as well? I think this is going to be complex. So I think this is probably going to be the last section I'm going to do for this stream. So we'll have a go at some of these. Might run out of focus before we get anywhere to the end of these though. Right. Elements with a content editable attribute support content, text content and inner HTML bindings. Okay. So this content editable, we can bind. Oh, bind. Inner HTML. Wow. Inner HTML with HTML inside. Okay. Okay. So what we're saying here is within this content editable block, we are setting the HTML in here. So if we did like no, that's just in the opposite way around from what I think will be useful, right? Write some text. Okay, so it's, yeah. It's creating this. But is it only p tags it's creating? So we're binding the inner HTML of this content editable block to the HTML value here, which is then being rendered in our pre-tag. Okay. Each block bindings. You can even bind to properties inside an each block. So we have our list of to-dos. Which at the moment don't do anything, right? Oh, we can bind here, right? So the checked property is bound to the to-do.done value. Right, okay. So the value, what, bind? Right, so as we can edit the content in the inbox, in the input, that assigns directly to the value in our to-do list. So overwriting what's written in there. The checkbox is bound directly to the done flag for each object in this array. When we run clear, we filter based on the done. Now remaining is based on the length of the ones that are not done. Okay. So this is explaining some functionality we've seen in the previous ones as well. So and we just got this opacity gets applied when it's done. That can't be the only change though. We're losing the... No, we can still type in it. We're losing the whatever it's called, the box shadow. Oh, it's not even shown on here anyway. Note that interacting with these input elements will mutate the array. If you prefer to work with immutable data, you should avoid these bindings and use event handlers instead. Okay. I think a lot of these are going to be quite niche. Media elements. You can bind properties of audio and video elements, making it easy to, example, build a custom player UI, like audioplayer.svelte. First, add the audio element along with its bindings. We'll use the shorthand form for source, duration, and paused. So in our audio player, our class player here, and we're going to add our audio tag, audio element, sorry, and with that, we're going to pass in the source. We're going to bind the current time as the time. We're going to bind duration, and bind paused. And then we're going to close that tag. Almost there. Right. Next, add an event handler to the button that toggles paused. So in our app, no, in our button here, play pause. So on click, click. We want to call arrow function that changes paused to the value of not paused. So there's just toggling the paused. Why is it not like that? Our audio player now has basic functionality. Okay. Oh yeah, we can turn... Sorry, I can turn the Chrome up a lot more. Okay, our audio player now has basic functionality. Let's add the ability to seek to a specific part by dragging the slider. So at the moment there's no interaction there. Inside the slider's pointed down handler. So where our slider is, we have a pointed down handler that takes the pointed down event, then calls this function seek. That event listener pointer move, pointer up. Remove that once. Okay. So left with. Okay, this is getting into things a bit more complicated than I think I'm prepared for at the moment. But we're just going to power through it for now, and we'll come back to it with a bit more bit more of a clearer head later. So now I can seek? Yeah. So time equals P times duration. I'm not sure I understand where. Okay, so this is just limiting it to between 0 and 1. Otherwise, time equals P times the duration of the song. Okay, so this is a slider from 0 to 1. And all it's doing is when we click the pointer down, which is the event clicking on this slider, it's taking the position of our pointer and setting the time based on the duration of how far through from 0 to 1 our click is. Okay. When the track ends, be kind to rewind. Because at the moment, it kind of does. But yeah, we can add here an on-ended directive. And that we are saying we're going to set the time equals 0. So now when we play something and it gets to the end, it automatically resets. The complete set of bindings for audio and video is as follows: 6 read-only bindings. So the duration, buffered. Okay. Seekable, played, seeking, and ended. Okay, and 5 two-way bindings, which current time, playback rate, paused, volume, and muted. Videos additionally have read-only video width and video height bindings. Okay, cool. Dimensions. Every block level element has a client width, client height, an offset width, and an offset height bindings. These bindings are read-only. Changing the values of W and H won't have any effect on the elements. Elements are measured using a technique similar to this one. There is some overhead involved, so it's not recommended to do this for large numbers of elements. Display inline elements cannot be measured with this approach, nor can elements that can't contain other elements, such as canvas. In this case, you will need to measure a wrapper element instead. Okay. So what we're doing here is we're looking at this div here, and we're going to bind the client width to the value of W and the client height to the value of H. So all this is doing is looking at the size of the div element and reading the displayed value here into our variables W and H, and then it's updating this span with those values. Cool. Next, this. Oh, this is gonna be annoying. I don't like using this. In a previous exercise, we learnt how to use the onMount lifecycle function to paint a canvas. But the example is buggy. It's using document.querySelect to canvas, which will always return the first canvas found on the page, which might not be the one belonging to our component. Instead, we can use the read-only this binding to get a reference to that element. So we are calling let canvas. Here, we're creating the canvas element first, And then in our canvas here, we're binding this context to our canvas variable that we just set up. These are very edge case scenarios. They're very niche. Component bindings. What else we got? How long is classes and styles? Just as you can bind to properties of DOM events, you can also bind to component props. For example, we can bind the value prop of this keypad component as though it were a form element. Okay, so we have our keypad. And we can bind the value of the keypad to our pin variable. Two 8641. Right, okay. So this is just a grid of buttons to select our value, that's fine. And the clear and submit buttons. And then in here, as we click on an item, the value that we've clicked on gets passed into our pin. Wait, where does value, bind value? Okay, so each time we click on a button, our select is adding. Well, technically it's concatenating onto the value. It's not actually adding. This is a concatenation of a string. Because we're forcing value to be a string to start with. This is using some quirky JavaScript stuff as well. Okay, so that value, as we change in keypad, we're exporting it into this binding to this pin value. And the view that we're showing here in this H1 we're setting the opacity based on if it exists. So if there's anything in pin, it will be an opacity 1, otherwise 0.4. So that's why it's grayed out a little bit. And the view is equal to pin if it exists. If it doesn't exist, it says enter your pin. If it does exist, we're replacing all of the letters, all the characters, or, well, all the digits except the last one with a dot. So that's why you see the most recently entered dot value. And then it alerts if you click submit. Okay. Binding to component instances. Just as you can do, just as you can bind to DOM events. Let's have a look. Just as you can bind to DOM events, you can bind to component instances themselves with bind this. This is useful in the rare cases that you need to interact with a component programmatically rather than providing it with updated props. Revisiting our Canvas app from a few exercises ago, it would be nice to add a button to clear the screen. First, let's export a function from canvas.svelte. Okay, so here we are exporting. Function clear, and this context dot clear rectangle 0 0 canvas dot width canvas dot height. Oh. Then create a reference to the component instance. So here in the app, where we are creating our canvas, let canvas, stolen our focus, okay. Let canvas, and then with our canvas element, wherever that is, here, we're binding this to canvas here. Finally add a button that calls the clear function. Class controls here. We want to add a button that has an on-click function that looks for our canvas and calls clear. And then in our button we need the word clear, and then we need to close our button. Oh. Right. So now if we draw around, we can click clear. Right, so what this is doing is binding the function, the clear function here. It's giving the app a way to interact with that function, because we're setting canvas as like an instance of our canvas class. Yeah, okay. Right, this feels like it's going to come back down to less techie parts of this. I feel like some of these are a little bit too edge casey. I'm sure they'll be useful for some people, but for the stuff I'm going to use this for, I don't need to know all of this. Right, like any other attribute, you can specify classes with a JavaScript attribute. Here we could add a flipped class to the card. So on our button, class card, and if flipped is true, then we're adding the class flipped. Otherwise, we're not adding anything. Why does it not like that? Button, class, flip. Oh, because of that. So flip starts false. If you click on the card anywhere, on click, flip becomes toggled to false, to true. And we've just got a spade on the other side of it by the looks of it. Plus some loads of other stuff. Okay. We can make it nicer though. Adding or removing a class based on some condition is such a common pattern in UI development that Svelte includes a special directive to simplify it. So rather than this bit here, okay, that's kind of nice, I think. So we can add in another class directive here, and this class directive, we're saying there's a potential class called flipped, and if this element here, flipped, is true, add the class flipped to the card class. If it's false, ignore it. So it's just another way to write what we just did. Yeah. Shorthand class directive. Often the name of the class will be the same as the name of the value it depends on. In those cases, we can use the shorthand form. Very nice. Okay, so we can just get rid of this because it already knows it's looking for that. Very nice. And then style. As with class, you can write your inline style attributes literally because Svelte is really just HTML with fancy bits. When you have a lot of styles, it can look a bit wacky. We can tidy things up by using the style directive. So rather than using all of these in between, yeah, okay. So here under our class, we can do style. So the transform style, if flipped is true, we're going to set it to rotate Y 0. Otherwise, if flipped is false, we set it to 0. Okay. Then we're adding another CSS element here, which is setting our background 1 variable to pale golden rod. Okay. Right, we've got something wrong here. Oh, just empty string. Unterminated string constant. That's because this also needs an empty string. Right, okay. Style. Background 2 is black. Okay, cool. Style. Background 3 as gold and red. Cool. Okay, so we can basically apply our CSS. We can overwrite. So this BG1 must be being used somewhere here in our front and back, right? Yeah, so our border is FG2. And then our patterns, background 2, background 3. So wait, is there a foreground one? Style. It looked like there was a foreground 2. Let's do it like brick red. Was it foreground 2 or foreground 1? No, foreground 2. Where's that? Oh, it is the border. Okay, cool. Component styles. How close are we? This is the last one, right? I'm going to be wrapping up after this one then, because I think these advanced bindings, actions stuff, is just very draining. Often you need to influence the styles inside a child component. Perhaps we want to make these boxes red, green, and blue. One way to do this is with the global CSS modifier, which allows you to indiscriminately target elements inside of other components. I don't like this idea at all. So you could do in each of the boxes, apply those as a style, right? Okay. But there are lots of reasons not to do that yet. For one thing, it's extremely verbose. For another, it's brittle. Any changes to implementation details of a box could break the selector. Yes. Most of all, though, it's rude. Components should be able to decide for themselves which styles can be controlled from the outside. In the same way they decide which variables are exposed as props. Global should be used as an escape hatch as a last resort. Okay. So inside box, change background color so it is determined by a CSS custom property. So instead of this, we now do var color with a fallback of white, or this off grey that we've got. And then in our app, we can override that. Ooh, I do like that though. Wow. Okay, I really like that. That's going to be so useful. Oh, why have we not got blue? Come on. Huh? Blue? There we go. Values can be dynamic like any other attribute. Feature works by wrapping each component in a div style display contents where needed and applying the custom properties to it. Ooh, okay. I like that. That's interesting. Oh, we could do another one. No, I'm going to save the rest of it for next time. Yeah, because this is important stuff, the next bits. Component composition and all that kind of stuff. Right, in that case, I'm going to wrap up there. Hopefully back on tomorrow for the next section. I'm just going to be messing around a little bit with it now. See if there's anything interesting to add to our template. But yeah, it's, I think some of the examples in this are just like overloaded. I think being stripped down to what they're actually demonstrating would be much more useful. But yeah, thanks everyone who's dropped in just to say hi. Hope it's been interesting. I know it's been quite in-depth today, so some of these topics are just a little bit too, a little bit thick, I'd say. But yeah, hopefully tomorrow and whenever the stream after that, when we get onto the basic Sveltekit, that's going to be some lighter reading. And what I might do is work through some of these and try and come up with some simpler examples, or get it clear in my head first, and then who knows, maybe I'll try and do some example videos and talk through them a little bit. But yeah, I hope everyone has a good week, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.